floor plan part 2, fixtures. Basically, you have a lot of choices when it comes to fixtures. First of all, you have to decide what fixtures you want. Typical fixtures are 4-ways, 2-ways, rounders, and then you have other product allocation like tables, shelving, that kind of stuff. In terms of shelving, bins or cubes against the wall, it's pretty simple. You just use the rectangle tool, and you draft a rectangle, and you just make sure it's against the wall. It depends on how wide your shelving is. Some of the shelving might be thinner than others. Remember, it's a bird's eye view, so you just would have to label cubes or various shelving. But basically, we just see the top shelf, which would be rectangular on the very top, because that's bird's eye view. So that's how you would draft that against the wall. Now, how does this differ from other things against the wall? For example, mirrors or TVs. The mirror, the TV would be a really, 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 really thin rectangle. Recommend that you make the stroke even thinner. So if my current stroke is 1 point, I'd make it 0.5 or even 0.25. Very thin, and then make sure you label it's a mirror or flat screen TV. In terms of actual floor fixtures, the simplest symbol for a 4-way would be, a square. That's the space it occupies. The only issue there, however, is that if you want to do square tables or use square for something else, it starts getting confusing and it becomes very difficult to do that. So even though it's the simplest, I don't necessarily recommend the square. It's better off if you depict so you can clearly tell it's a 4-way. So you can do 2 lines and make them across. You can make 2 lines, make it across, and then add a dashed line to make it look like garments are on the actual rack. And you can do this by basically getting your lines and selecting them, going edit, copy, and then edit, paste in front. You paste in front like I did here, and then you go ahead to your stroke and go ahead and turn it into a dashed line and fix the dash in the gap and play with that a little bit. And what's different here is that you actually increase the stroke weight. We're talking about 8, potentially 8 or 7. That might be a little too wide, maybe 6 or 5. So it looks like there's actual garments on there. This is a little too much. I'd make it a little bit less. But you can do just a plain cross. You can do it this way. This is another symbol that's kind of typical, where you do a series of rectangles and a line underneath it, and then a box in the middle. That's another way of depicting a 4-way. Okay, so you basically have choices. These are 4 different ways. 2-ways, it should just kind of link to your 4-way. So if I use lines, I would do something like this. This would be the base of it. Or you can do a round knob for the very top. If you do it like this, then I do the little rectangles going down the line, so make it consistent with that. If you did dash line, I would do the same for the 2-ways. So make sure that they're consistent, that they both have the same kind of look. And rounder, you can do just a plain circle or a circle with a dashed line on top of it, again to make it look like there's garments hanging from it. Again, this will help differentiate from a circular table, for example. Or if you choose to do a mannequin and the symbol of the mannequin is a circle, you won't confuse it. Another way, if you choose to do solid circle, one thing that you can do is, for example, one of the circles, and make sure that you put it on the legend, but it would have black fill, and that would be your table, whereas the one without the fill would be the rounder with garment, that would have product. So it's entirely up to you how you want to do that. In terms of tables, you have choices. Obviously, you can do round tables, so ellipse tool, while pressing shift, you drag and it gives you a perfect circle. You can do perfect square tables, which is a rectangle tool, and you press shift and it makes a perfect square. Or you can do rectangular tables, which are very common. And you can do nested tables as well. When you do nested tables, something like this, I drafted the top one. You typically, just by human nature, you draft the second one afterwards. A couple of things. The first one should have white fill. assuming you're doing a black and white floor plan. And you also need to send the top table, you have to send it to the front, okay? And now you have a nested table, okay? So you need to make sure that you have that so you don't see the table underneath. So that would be a nested table. If you want to put details on the table, like magazines or whatever the case may be, little thin rectangles, you can do that as well, although that's never required. And if you want to show merchandise like folded items, for example, you absolutely can. Remember, this is a bird's eye view, so you don't show perspective. It's I'm sorry. You can show folded items. You can show, or you can do a rectangle. There you go. Donut circle. So you can do, this could be folded denim table or t-shirts or whatever. You can depict those if you want as well. And that takes care of, and rolling rack. If you want to do a rolling rack, again, you draft a line. Some rolling racks are longer than others, so what's the typical rolling rack? It does depend on what kind of rolling rack you want to do. But rolling rack is typically a line, and you usually see two endpoints where the wheels would be, kind of the side segments. So you just do one end, and then you just copy and bring it onto the other side. Okay, and that could be a rolling garment rack or a rolling rack as well. Okay, and that takes care of fixtures for a floor plan.